Hello and welcome to Ruggles Roundup. It's the portion of our Elevated Mission podcast where we talk about all things sports. We're super excited to bring this episode to you. Well, we have been working through the NFL divisions. We started off, we got into the South, the AFC and NFC South, and we went into the NFC and AFC East. Today, we're jumping into the NFC and AFC West. Let's start it off with the AFC West. It has got some great teams and some teams that we just go, what is going to happen? A lot of new regime change, a lot of things happening. And where you want to start at here in this division, Ian?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can reserve. I don't know. Maybe we get the boring one out, and which is funny because there's nothing about this team that's boring. But the Chiefs, they're going to be the top team in this division. I think that's where we both stand on this one. As Chiefs, Raiders, Broncos, Chargers. I don't think there's really a lot of competition out there for the Chiefs in this division. I think they're just a full head above the rest of the competition in this division, as they have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, the best offensive play designer and the best quarterback in the NFL. It's a match made in heaven, and I think they're going to continue to have a lot of success. And I don't see anybody really getting into their territory in this upcoming season. So easy, boring. Pick Chiefs are the number one team in the AFC West.
Yeah, I mean, if you're sitting down at a barbecue joint in Kansas City, Missouri, you're not thinking about, are they going to win the division? You're thinking about, are they going to three-peat on the Super Bowl? That's what's on the minds of those Chiefs. That's what's on the minds of their fans. And anything less is an unsuccessful year for them at this point. So they're going to be good. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't face some challenges in this division, because there's some up-and-coming teams. There's some good coaches, some probably Hall of Fame level coaches in this division now. And it's going to be interesting to see as those coaches get their guys, get their systems implemented, and what does that play out. But right now, the class of the NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs, you got Andy Reid. I don't even think it's much of an argument to be considered the best coach in the NFL currently.
Absolutely. Completely agree. Now, once we get into the next segment of this standings, all three teams are now in viable contention for that number 2 spot in the AFC West. As I think Raiders, Broncos, they both finished 8-9 last year as the second and third team, and then 5-12 with the Chargers. Maybe the former 5-12 team from last year is the team I expect to be making the biggest rise up in the standings, as I just thought they needed to get in a new regime in their new coaching staff to really elevate that talent that's already available there. The only real question I have with that team really goes into, where are the weapons going to come from in this squad? But they did a lot of fun things in this draft. They got now a culture builder in Jim Harbaugh. He's a guy that brings in a certain style of locker room, and it tends to win football games. We saw it with San Francisco. We've seen it everywhere he's been throughout his entire career. And so I think he's going to bring that same winning culture to the Chargers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's fresh off his national championship with the University of Michigan, but he is coming in and he knows how to win at football. And so, you know what? They've had a lot of talent in that in the Los Angeles Chargers locker room for a while, and I think he's going to get the most out of it. Justin Herbert, I think one of the great young arms in the NFL, has the ability to be a top 5 to top 3 quarterback in this league under the right tutelage. That right tutelage may have just come to town in Jim Harbaugh and his staff. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that all comes about. And yes, I agree with you. They could skyrocket from worst to second. And if they get really hot, even win the division. I don't think that even if they did that, you're still going to see the Chiefs, I believe, in the playoffs. But they are a team to watch out for. They're going to be on the rise. But even if they just get into where they're playing winning football. They get into the playoffs. I think that's what the Chargers fans expect, and I think that's what they should expect with the talent they're able to put out on the field.
And I think one thing that people don't realize is also because Jim Harbaugh is an offensive guy, he really helps the defense as well, as he eats up a lot of clock when
Yes.
he's has the offensive ball. He gives a lot of time off for those players to be able to take a little bit of a breather and lets defensive players really rest, which is going to be huge for this team as they've just had injury history on this squad. Joey Bosa and Derwin James being two of those guys. Khalil Mack also, as he's a little long in the tooth. They all have injury history. Getting them off the field for long periods of time, doing those long run-heavy drives where they just eat up 4 yards, 5 yards, and let those guys rest for a little bit. I'm definitely excited to see what that defense can do as hopefully they stay a little bit healthier this upcoming year, as they had been so pass heavy over the last few years, just really leaning into Justin Herbert, where I see them leaning into Justin Herbert, but in a way that maybe is, okay, make this happen with not a lot of wide receiver weapons, but we got the threat of running, and that's going to help you be able to open up these guys.
Well, the promise of Jim Harbaugh to Bo Schembechler that he'll always keep a fullback in that offense does lend to some power drive football, getting after it in the run game, which tends to open it up in the pass game as well. And it'll look very different in Los Angeles with those Chargers take the field this year than what it's looked like the last couple of years. But that's not a bad thing. And yes, a defensive coordinator turned head coach walked out of the building. But like you said, I don't think that's going to hurt the defense one bit. Jim Harbaugh plays a style and brings a thought process and a tenacity to a locker room that is very beneficial to the defensive side of the ball. They like that kind of just atmosphere, to be in the building when you're a defensive coach or a defensive player. So, but a couple of other good teams that aren't going to just give up that number 2 spot or even vying for that number 1 spot, just easily. You've got probably future Hall of Fame coach sitting over in Denver, and he did a nice turnaround last year. Now, he's got his quarterback of the future in the draft. What do you think Sean Payton and the Broncos do?
Yeah, they're probably in that same category with the Chargers, but in a completely different way. I think they both have amazing head coaches that bring a winning culture into a program, but one has the quarterback and nobody else, and one has everything else but what I know to be the quarterback, the franchise quarterback. And that franchise quarterback it makes winning so much easier. I mean, we saw how much Russell Wilson's decline affected that team as he was just not the same player as he once was. Well, do we even know that Bo Nix is going to be whatever we got out of Russell Wilson last year, as he was still, a veteran.
Statistically
we saw him,
good, Russell Wilson last year.
Yeah, statistically still had a decent season. A lot of people put that on Sean Payton, but I think that you could. There's a world where none of these quarterbacks. I mean, you got a quarterback room with Jared Stidham, Zach Wilson, and Bo Nix. There's a definite world where that quarterback room is atrocious and can't get you any wins. So they're a team where it's if you get the quarterback working right, if Bo Nix fits as well as he looked like on paper you break down his film as a draftee and you say what fits in that Sean Payton system, he 100% does. But I mean, with these draftees, it's always throwing kind of a dart at the dartboard, and either you're a professional dart player or you're just some bum drunk at a bar.
I don't even know. Is Bo Nix or Zach Wilson older? I know, Zach Wilson spent some time in the NFL now, but Bo Nix has spent like 30 years at the college level. So it's really hard to know which.
I know Zach Wilson looks younger.
Yes, he does. He definitely has the baby look face.
He definitely has the baby face. I think Zach Wilson is 24 years old, and 24 years old for Bo Nix. I guess we'd have to get into the years of of when they were born to find the age difference in these guys. Okay, same Zach Wilson. Basically. Slightly older. He's slightly older.
Okay, he's the elder statesman in the room.
He is.
There you
A
go.
few
Well,
months he's
I
got him.
even wonder, week one, who do you think starts? You think it's going to be Bo Nix, or you think it's going to be Zach Wilson?
I think it's got to be Bo Nix. You spend that high draft pick on him. You have no solidified veteran in the room. I think you got to go Bo Nix, or that might be a confidence shaker if you see Zach Wilson go out there as a young quarterback. If he starts playing good, then it's tough on Bo Nix to ever, live up to whatever selection he was. As he was taken decently high in the
Yeah,
first
in the
round.
first round for
So
sure. Yeah.
so he's a guy that's expected to start this upcoming year, and so I think it's going to end up being Bo Nix. I like their running back room a lot. I think offensively they got a lot of great weapons out there that can be utilized and be highly beneficial. That defense usually is good, but it's got a lot of question marks outside of maybe what I consider the best cornerback in football right now with Patrick Surtain the second. And so they need a lot of work on that defensive side. Yeah, I think because they were a decent team last year, I put them in the category, and you got the coach. But it's going to be tough for them to be able to get that second place in the AFC West. But I think they have an opportunity to if Bo Nix works out.
I felt like they snuck up on some people last year. Like people expected the Broncos to not be that good last year,
Yeah.
and so they snuck up on some people. So they had a little better record than maybe they would have if everyone's like, "Oh, watch out for the Broncos." But I'll tell you another team that's got some talent. They definitely can get after it from the edge with Max Crosby. Is out in Las Vegas. You've got those Raiders. They're got an uptick. They get the interim head coach remaining in the spot, which is popular in the locker room. But it's going to be different when he's got the job and he's sitting there and you know that's your coach moving forward, and you start off the season, you have a full off season with him, and that can be a good thing, but sometimes that's turned out to be a bad thing as well. What do you think's happening out there in Vegas?
Yeah, it's an interesting spot to be at as they just don't have a lot in the cupboard right now. You
Yeah.
got some big stars we talked about, Devontae Adams, Max Crosby. Those guys are guys 100% of note. Christian Wilkins is a good D tackle as well, can get an all-star in there every once in a while. And then you're counting on guys that were really good college players. I mean, Jacoby Myers, I don't want to move past him too quickly. Very underrated wide receiver, one of the better wide receiver twos in the NFL. But then it drops off to Trey Tucker as your wide receiver three, which I don't know if anybody knows who Trey Tucker is. And then
I saw him in a
you got Brock
comedy years ago. Thought he was hilarious.
probably one of the Tuckers. That's funny. Brock Bowers, though, probably going to be that third weapon out there. But then who's getting them the football? You got Aiden O'Connell as your starting quarterback. I think probably the better guy out there is probably Gardner Minshew, as he's on that roster. And so I probably end up seeing Gardner Minshew out there. But I mean, if you don't want to win games, Aiden O'Connell go out there and he'll throw you 2 picks a game and help out you in your goal for some number 1 overall pick that you have no idea what the prospect's going to be like at that point. And so it's an interesting spot to be at for that Las Vegas Raiders team. They are not in a place of upswing, I don't think, where the other 2 teams I could see the upswing. They are still lagging behind trying to figure out what bat they're going to use.
Yeah, I mean, I see Gardner Minshew as well, like getting out there. Get the magic flowing again, and Gardner can definitely catch fire, for a certain period of time. I don't know if it'll be for a whole season, but when he's on track, he can play. I feel like he plays ball similar to Baker Mayfield. We saw a great season out of Baker in Tampa Bay last year, and we saw flashes of some good play out of Gardner Minshew in Indianapolis last year after the injury to their starter and him coming in and keeping the season somewhat on the rails for a while. And so, it's going to be nice to see him get another shot in that starting position. I think he's going to get that shot. And he's got some nice, like you said, his 1 and 2 at the wide receiver position, should be able to, stretch the field, do some good things. The way that Gardner Minshew plays, football. He's a no risk it, no biscuit, kind of a player. And so they might be fun on the offensive side of things. That D line, like you said, they can get in there and put some pressure on an offense and, make them have to get the ball out, in rhythm and quick. So, they can win some games. I think it's more likely, in my opinion, that even though they were in last place last year, that we see the Chargers in that number 2 spot after the Chiefs, and you see the Broncos kind of pushing them. That could be flip-flop between those two, and most likely we're going to see the Las Vegas Raiders at the bottom of that division. But, that's just, off-season what we think. And these things always tend to amaze me how, teams that you go, I don't know how they even pull a season together. It's like when we were talking about the Dallas Cowboys, like, who's their running back, right now? And they don't even have, CeeDee Lamb, they don't have solidified, so same kind of things with some of these teams where you're just like, I mean, who are the Chargers rolling out on offense besides, Justin Herbert? I don't know, but some guys might show up and ball out. You just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, you never know, especially when they're swapping out new coaches, bringing in a new culture, whatever it may be. I think it's an interesting spot. What do you think is okay? There's a few fun rookies in this that are probably going to be asked to do a lot in their systems, like Las Vegas having Brock Bowers. You got Los Angeles, which will probably be asking a lot from their wide receiver rookies, like Lad McConkey, probably going to be asked to do a lot. You even have the fastest player in draft history being added into the Kansas City Chiefs, with him now gosh, I'm blanking on his name. Xavier Worthy out of Texas. He's going to be out there. What do you think is going to be the biggest impact rookie in this conference?
That's a good question. Like, I like Bowers and the amount of just experience he has at that championship level in college. But speed in that Chiefs system, watch out for that. I'm excited to watch what can Andy Reid dream up with that. And here's the thing. He can't outrun Patrick Mahomes' arm. That dude could be parachuting out of an airplane, falling, trying to put his shoe on and sling it 70 yards down the seam and hit that guy in the end zone. And if he can hold on and catch it, it's going to be spectacular. So I'm going to go Chiefs. What Andy Reid can do with speed. Worthy. Yeah, you got Worthy running out there and just doing crazy stuff. We'll see how his hands hold up, but that's my prediction. How about you? Where do you think that's going?
Yeah, I mean, I love the speed in that Chiefs system. I just worry about the misuse of Brock Bowers in the Raider system. If you had to ask me, like, if it was any of the players outside of where they're at in their play, I think he might be the best player there. But I think the fact that he went to the Raider system just kind of throws a little wrench in his production value heading into next year, where obviously that's why you put Worthy for the Kansas City Chiefs as your number one guy, because he's going into a system that values that speed, has positional versatility that will utilize him in a multitude of ways. Yeah. But I'm going to have to go for the Los Angeles Chargers, Lad McConkey. I think he's going to be probably leaned on the most out of anybody in the system. You got other wide receivers out there with the Kansas City Chiefs. I think it's not the best wide receiver, but you still got Marquise Brown, who's going to take a lot of that over-the-top looks because he's one of the faster guys in the NFL as well. And so I think that takes a little bit away. And you got Lad McConkey, who's competing for catches from Quentin Johnson, Joshua Palmer, and tight end Will Disley. So I really like Lad McConkey. I think he works in that just working over the middle type system that I know that John Harbaugh really likes to play. Jim Harbaugh really likes to play out there. And so I think he's going to be really, really nice in the slot working over the middle. And I think production-wise, he will be the most valuable player in that Chargers system because they just don't have enough guys to throw to.
It's so much about fit with the coaching staff on those players, even more so than their overall talent. So I like that pick. Well, it's going to be fun to watch those rookies. This is going to be a fun division to watch for sure. We got, a team that's going to be vying for another Super Bowl, but you got some other teams that they may shock us this year and put some nice work out on that field. Well, thank you for watching and listening to Ruggles Roundup on the Elevated Mission podcast. Make sure if you're on YouTube, you click the subscribe and you click the like button. We love that you're out there listening and watching us talk about all things sports. We'll see you next time.